Well, thank you, Steve, for this opportunity. A few months ago, I hit Steve up for maybe 5 minutes of your time to tell you a little bit about my minor obsession with the Boeing 707, which goes back to my childhood, and we can get to that in a little bit later. But I'd just like to introduce the topic by showing you this video, which I'm sure we've all seen before.
I've sold fighters and commercial airplanes, and you demonstrate them to impress people what they're capable of. And I knew that the prototype, and there's one maneuver that you can do with no hazard whatsoever. I decided that I would do a roll to impress the people. So I came across and did up with Shondell. One of my test engineers happened to have his camera with him, and he snapped a picture, which is famous today, with the airplane on its back, and the engines up on top of the wing, and the Lake Washington below.
Okay, well, we'll get back to Tex Johnson in a minute. I don't often get an audience, so I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself. My father, for most of his career, the gentleman in the back there, was Director of Aviation Medicine for the Department of Civil Aviation, based in Melbourne. And as a result, he could get access to the department's fleet of aircraft. Usually he'd get the runt of the litter because no one else wanted. So this is my first ever ride in an aeroplane. That's me on the left, my older brother Donald on the right, and my father behind. And we're going to go flying in this little Oster, Charlie Alpha Mike. Most of the department's aircraft had CA prefixes for civil aviation. And just by way of interest, that's a Pan Am DC-6B in the background. This is at Essendon Airport before the introduction of jets, well before. I found this in my father's slide collection. I didn't know it existed, and it's one of those things that, you know, you have childhood memories that you insist to write, and your brothers or friends might say, no, that never happened, or it was a different day. So it's always really nice to find these childhood memories validated by documentary evidence, and this is one of those things. I always knew we took off from Essendon Airport. We were taxiing away, and I turned around and there was this huge DC-3 with great big engines right up our arse. And I was scared, but I don't remember anything about the flight other than we landed at Mangalore that day and presumably came home. So after the department retired the Oster, they got a little tail dragger, Cessna 170. This was Charlie Alpha Sierra. And my siblings and I spent many, many hours in this aircraft because my father was doing research into crop duster accidents, and whenever there was a prang out at Ballarat or Bendigo or Wangaratta, we'd go down and we'd jump in this little plane. It wasn't yellow back then. And we'd fly to these rural communities, and he'd go out and have a look at the accidents. And after he died in late 90s, I guess, at his memorial service, my siblings and I were talking about our trips with Dad in this little plane, and when I got back to Perth, I speculated that maybe this little plane is still flying. Well, in the early days of the internet, you could download the Civil Aviation Register, which I did, and I found the guy who owned this plane. And not only was it still flying, but he lived up in Darlington. And when I called him, he said, yeah, no worries, Chaz, come and see it down at Langley Park in a couple of weeks. So this is the Langley Park sports aircraft fly-in, I think, March 1999. That's Langley Park over there, different year. But there was Charlie Alpha Sierra. I've got to say, it brought a tear to my eye to see it all fully restored, beautiful yellow livery. And the owner showed me the aircraft's logbook with all my father's entries in it over the years. That's just a little by the by. So probably around about the same time, I think the late 50s, 59, Qantas started introducing the 707 to its overseas services. And my father took us down to Avalon. This is Avalon Airport, and we just pulled off the side of the road near the undershoot to watch the 707s as they did their circuit training. These are 707 pilots undergoing training to get certified so they can fly the thing. Down the bottom there you can see my sister in white. She's got her ears over her ears, and that's me in the red, and my brother to the left, and my mother. And we're all standing there because these things were really loud. And I do remember that day. This is another occasion. I do remember that day. I was very excited because I saw a rabbit. Now, just by the by, I was at Avalon and I manned the booth for the Aviation Heritage Society of Australia, and they produced this wonderful magazine. I urge you all to join up and subscribe to it. It's in colour these days. This is an old back issue. And I got it because A, it features a nice picture of the 707, but there's an article in it by Captain Graham Lance, who, after his wartime career, flew for Qantas. and flew some 707s. And he talks about doing circuit training at Avalon, probably the same time as we were watching him do it. And in terms of Tex and his barrel roll, which is documented, in his article here, Graham mentions Harley Beard was the Boeing flight instructor who was training these pilots. And it says, Harley Beard was a very, very good pilot, and one night he did a barrel roll in the 707 over Geelong. And goes on to say that the flight engineer who was in a bay didn't even know he was upside down, because, you know, when you do a roll, you can keep a 1G in the cockpit, so you don't really know you're ever upside down. And then the footnote to that is a Qantas Boeing 707 was barrel rolled on at least one other occasion. Boeing's second instructor involved in training Qantas crews, Russell Boehm, also rolled an aircraft on a training flight over Bass Strait. So that was interesting to read that in this magazine, because I didn't know any of that, of course. So we get back to Tex and his flight over Seattle, and he did this famous roll, and he talks about his flight engineer being in the cabin, and he took a photo out the window, and the photo, which is famous today, engines up on top of the wings, Lake Washington below. So my question to you all, who can tell me, hands up, who can tell me what's wrong with this photo? It's upside down. This photo is upside down. Isn't it ironic? A photo of an upside down aircraft is upside down. If you looked out of the window at a Boeing 707 when it was inverted, it would look like that. But it's one of those weird things, you know, if they put that in the paper, or it was never published in a paper, not until recently, people say, well, that's stupid, it's not upside down, it's the right way up. Anyway, I've been wanting to get that off my chest for a long time, so thank you for your perseverance, and for all of you who picked it straight away. For instance, this is the Seattle Times, and it's a 70-year anniversary of the famous Boeing 707 barrel roll. They still put it upside down. And that's a reprint of one that they did 10 years earlier in 2015, same occasion. They still get it upside down. And if you Google, you know, Tex Johnson barrel roll, you get a series of images. They're all the wrong way up, except this guy here on Reddit. I don't know, I didn't check him out, but without any fanfare, he's just got it the right way up. All the others are upside down. So that's all I wanted to tell you about. Thank you very much.